Hey guys, so what does it take to build a career in independent auto damage adjusting and teach over 5,000 people how to do the same? In today's episode, we sit down with Chris Stanley, founder of IAPath and host of the Independent Adjuster podcast, to explore his journey from claims to coaching and why he believes anyone can break into this field with the right roadmap. Hey everyone, welcome to the Adjuster Coach podcast. I am your host, Pablo Gonzalez, adjusting career coach and founder of the Adjuster Coach. This podcast is here to help you level up your skills, your mindset, and your career in the world of independent adjusting. If you're enjoying the show, please don't forget to follow, subscribe, and leave a review on your favorite podcasting platform. It helps more adjusters discover the content and grow alongside you. All righty. So, Chris, thank you so much for being here with me today in the Adjuster Coach podcast. So go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background and, what you've been doing so far in this industry. And I know this segment is probably going to take 20 minutes or so with your bio.
No. Not at all. Me, I'm a guy who did the job, right? I was an independent auto adjuster and appraiser, but before that, I worked at a warehouse. And so my father-in-law kind of came to me and said, hey, I'm going to give you a skill. I want you to take better care of my daughter, without saying that. And he taught me how to be an independent auto damage appraiser and adjuster. And so that was my entrance into the industry. I had a true formal mentor and mentored him under him for 6 months. And so I went and I worked in the industry for, about 8 years. And over time, I realized there wasn't a lot of people telling people how to get started in auto. It was always about property. So I started a company called IAPath, and that's kind of why we're here today. 8 years after that, now IAPath's been around, and we've helped thousands of people get started in auto and learn how to write auto damage estimates. But that's kind of my background, my story, why we're here. Sure, I've written some books, I've done some podcasts, but I'm just a guy who had a mentor and realized I was really fortunate that I had that and not everybody had that. And so decided to do that through the internet.
Very, very humble intro, my friend. With 19 Amazon #1 best-selling books, 15 years in the industry, IAPath is a tremendous company. And I'm so grateful for, the relationship that I've had with you as I worked those 12 years with Adjuster Pro and now on my own, because there is a lot of people that call me and say, I don't necessarily want to do property. I want to do auto, but I have absolutely no idea how to get in there. And I always say, you got to go to IAPath, just because I love this idea of how you tell people, we're not going to play scratch offs. We're not going to play the lottery here. That we're going to have, a system and we're going to help you get work, but we're not going to leave it up to chance. And maybe you can talk a little bit about that, how you're, what is that you say? Skip the adjuster lottery, I think is the quote.
Skip the adjuster lottery. Yeah, there you go. I've only been saying it for 8 years now, straight over and over and over again. Yeah. It gets a little boring for those who might have been around for a long time. But what I noticed when I started teaching people how to write auto claims, they all had the same question. And, in business and in coaching, you have to pay attention to what are the questions you're hearing over and over, because that's what people really want. They don't want what you got. They want what they need and what they want, right? They really don't care what you're selling unless it solves their problem. And so the problem I kept hearing is, I don't know how to get work. I have a license. I've been on rosters, the same song and dance we've all heard and been through. And I was like, tell me more, to hundreds of people. I mean, in literally conversation after conversation, same story. And what was weird is I didn't know that everyone tended to get started by getting a license, going on back in the day, catadjuster.org, right? Getting on those kinds of forums.
Wow.
And it's still around. It's still around. I talk to the guy occasionally.
Is it still around?
Yeah, it's still around.
Wow.
And, that people would get on rosters, great companies like Pilot and the Best Claim Solutions and all this. And they used to be called the Best IRS, which terrified me. I'm like, I'm not going to work for the IRS.
I know. I never understood that name, to be honest with you. What is best about the IRS?
Right. So I didn't realize that was what everybody was doing. So I had a totally different reverse experience. Everyone's getting a license, waiting for a hurricane.
Yeah.
I went under a mentor, trained for 6 months without pay, and he like soft handed me off to a company to go do daily auto claims. Nobody did that. Nobody even knew daily auto was a thing. So I just started telling people, there's these other types of claims out there. And so
That's
I
right.
realized that everybody was playing an adjuster lottery because I looked up the numbers. In the state of Texas, when I did the research, it was 17,756 licensed adjusters in Texas. And you're the last, most newest one as a new IA. So your odds at best, if a hurricane hits, are one in, a few thousand. That is a lottery, right? And you have no control over it. It's if somebody calls you. It's if you have the right license. It's if the hurricane's bad enough to get you deployed. It's if they actually have claims after they deploy you and don't send you home, right? Like everything was so up to chance. And then it hit me that we're 1099 contractors, we're business owners, but literally the main way everyone's trying to get work is through a way they have zero control. That's not being a business owner.
That's
and
right.
I was like, we have to just change the way we look at this. And so that's when I came up with the term adjuster lottery. It's when I wrote the Independent Adjusters Playbook, which is like, hey, different way to play these games, right? And so that's kind of what we're talking about. We're not saying that's bad to go get catastrophic work, but we're saying maybe you should go after work you can control while playing the adjuster lottery.
That's right. That's right. And look, to a certain extent, a claim is a claim in the sense of the process. There is a property, because it's so interesting. I've done licensing for so long, and somebody will call me and be like, oh, my state offers a property and casualty license, but I want to do auto. No. Property means anything you can own. On my webinars on Wednesdays, I tell people, look, things slow down for property in October. Do auto. Auto is a great field. Number one, you don't have to get up on a roof. Number one question I get from newbies, do I have to get up on a roof? Not if you do auto. Number two, okay, this could be wrong, but last time I heard there were 19,000 car accidents a day in this country. And I live in South Carolina, believe it, number one state for accident fatalities, as terrible as that sounds. People, South Carolina is crazy. And I came from Florida, which is a whole nother ballgame, But, talk about, having work always. Let's not even mention, so those are just accidents. Hailstorms, regular storms, those type of things. I think
deer hits, thefts.
Yeah.
I put death instead of diesel in my truck claims. Like,
that's right.
All of these
that's
crazy
right.
Sugar in the gas tank. I can't
sugar
in the gas tank.
I know. Diesel instead of gas, all that good stuff.
Right?
That's right. Yep. That's right. So tell me a little bit about this, because I know you always get very excited about how good the auto industry is. Just kind of touch on that a little bit, because you're right. Everybody calls me and everybody wants to go help put that roof back for that homeowner that went through a hurricane. And that's a good path, no doubt.
That's great.
But I always tell people, look for a different way to get into the industry or make yourself stand out. We always talk about like a New York license and now in Iowa, or do something different. And I always tell them, think about doing auto. Tell me, why is autos, such a great path to get into this industry?
Really, I would say it's a great path because primarily you have some say in it. Not unlimited say, but you have a lot more control over it than that catastrophe lottery we were talking about. If a hurricane comes through, if it comes through and a major hurricane hits, like the ones we remember from adjusting lore, Hurricane Katrina, Sandy, these ones that just tons of massive people getting work, those happen every 2 to 5 years. Those big ones we remember, right? They are not happening every year. Last year, we kind of had a down year in terms of how many IAs went to work, catastrophe. And so what those people are experiencing now is like, I didn't get work, or at least much work, for an entire year. So auto is kind of the inverse. It's like you might not crush it. You might not get a grand slam this year in terms of revenue or income like you would if you got deployed to a Hurricane Sandy or Katrina, but you're probably going to get a base hit. You're going to still be in this game, and that's what people kind of miss, is they're like, it's not as good of money as residential. Let's call it residential because it's all property, right? But yeah, residential
Sure.
claims. But you aren't sitting there waiting for a hurricane. You're not sitting there hoping you can last to next year, even relevant in the industry or remembering your training. Um, you can typically find work, some amount of daily work in your area any time of year. It might not be enough to sustain you full time, even, but if you can even do work part time, nights,
Yeah.
weekends, it keeps your skills up and it keeps you in the game long enough to then you get up to bat again. Hurricane hits.
That's right.
You already know how to do the job. You're good at your job.
Yep.
You get sent
That's
out,
right.
and these big companies are like, "Holy crap! Where's this guy or gal been hiding?" They're crushing it, and all of a
That's
sudden you're
awesome.
now experienced in a less stress environment,
Yep.
getting introduced one or two claims at a time rather than here's 100 claims. And so it's just a higher likelihood of success all the way around. So it's just like better
love that.
odds, better odds, better odds.
Hey, Chris, here's 100 claims. You knock them out. Good luck, buddy.
Wait,
But, you
is
know-
somebody going to train me on site? Right? That's what everybody
Yeah,
thinks.
yeah,
I'm going to
that's
get
right.
deployed
That's
and
just-
they're going to train
That's
me.
right. That's right. Let us know when you're done because we have another 100 waiting. But
Yeah.
even just the the auto part, as far as just even being in the industry, the language of the industry, going through whatever digital forms you're adjusting from you're working with, you're gonna show up and you're gonna sound knowledgeable. You're going to sound like you know what you're doing. And maybe you haven't been doing residential, but they're like you said, where's this person been? This guy knows how to handle a claim inside and out. Sure, it's changed from a car to a residence. And, maybe they were using Mitchell or Pathways, and now you're going to use Xactimate. And let's face it, you can get trained in Xactimate in a week if you have to, and you can hit the ground running. But I think that's great because, like you said, wow, this person is so well qualified, because they've been doing auto for a while. So I think so auto is just a great career path in this industry. I also think, is it true that there's quite a bit of remote adjusting opportunity for auto? I've always been
Just
meaning to ask
depends.
you about this. Yeah, yeah. Tell me
Yeah,
a little
so-
bit about being a desk adjuster for auto and being out in the field for auto, because that's one area that I'm not well versed in. Tell me about that.
So I assume, based on conversations with you, Matt Allen, Calvin at MoCat, is that it is very similar to how residential works with property. There is the ability that some people get to sit there, receive photos, receive, all the notes, and they key it in for somebody else, and you're doing that type of remote desk adjusting. But by and large, that, because one person can do that for tons of people, right? You're not going to see it a ton of that. That's not easily accessible. It's much more competitive because you could be in New York writing a claim for California versus
Yeah.
if you're in Podunk, Texas, and somebody has to go look at a car,
Yeah.
there's not as much competition. But your
That's
whole
right.
competition in remote work is everyone.
Yeah.
And so
yeah. Great point.
there
Great
is
point.
there is that type of work, but it's much more competitive. Whereas the other type of desk work we see a lot of is we just are rolling out a total loss certification in auto this coming week. So this is training you how to sit behind the desk and do the job that traditionally an inside or a desk adjuster does, which is, hey, what is this vehicle actually worth? Does it have coverage? What are the options on the vehicle? What's the condition of it? Let's get salvage bits. Let's do all the stuff that the field guys and gals typically don't deal with. And they actually settle the claim with the owner. And that's usually done in a cubicle environment. So this is like a deployment. Hurricane Sandy, I did it. Got shoved into a cubicle, and they're like, "Do total loss." I'm like, "I've done field. I don't know what this is." Caught
Yeah.
on really quick, but it was very different. So that's another type of work, and you're paid differently for each one of these types. Different for field, different for desk, different for daily. And so a lot of people are like wanting one or the other, but when you can do all of them, suddenly the odds are better, right?
Yeah, and I will say, and this is what I appreciate about IA Path. You recently had a webinar on total loss, didn't you?
Yeah, we absolutely
think-
had a webinar on total loss, and that was kind of like our primer to getting ready
Yeah.
for our certification.
And I mean,
We
I
wanted to get
remember,
that
I couldn't believe it.
information out.
Yeah, how many people did you have on there? You had quite a few people, and then you and I
We had
started
over
talking, and I
500
started looking.
registered.
Yeah, that was crazy, and I started looking into it, and that seems to be an area where not many auto adjusters were trained in. They didn't know well what they were doing, and so I just love that about about IA Path, that you kind of find these spots,
Mm-hmm.
well, blind spots in the industry, and then you train to them. So I think that's great. Touch a little bit on, because everybody knows Xactimate. So tell me a little bit about the type of software that's used for appraising, auto adjusting, what you guys teach. How does that? What are those? Give me some examples of that.
All right, so like you said, Xactimate's kind of the king of residential or property claims. In auto, it's CCC1. There are a few other softwares that do get used, but CCC1 is the king of auto. And so we do train that inside of our certifications and things that we teach, because it is the default that you need to know. And once you know one software, similar to Symbility and Xactimate, they're not extremely different. They have different methodologies behind the scenes. But by and large, if you can measure a roof and input a roof in Xactimate, you could probably figure it out in Symbility. Same with CCC1, Mitchell, and Autotex, which is now called Captor. If you can do one, you can do the other.
Yeah. Okay, great. And so let's kind of pivot a little bit into the new people coming into the industry. What do you think? And I know you touched on this a little bit, but really, if you could put it down to a couple of thoughts, what do you think is the biggest mistakes new adjusters make early on?
They wait. They think they have to wait. I can't stand it as someone who hates to wait myself. I'm very impatient. So when I see somebody get a license, or even wait to get a license till they know more, or whatever it is that they think they need to wait for, it seems like every step of the way they're told to wait, by and large, by the internet, by the major IA firms. Wait for orientation. Now wait for us to call you. Wait to do this. And that just drives me bananas, because action creates attraction is one of the core things that I kind of live by. Is if I don't know what to do in my business, I go do something. I do a webinar, I do a podcast with Pablo, I do something, because action creates attraction. And when you're doing stuff, you're bumping into people. You're running. So go do that orientation with Pilot Catastrophe. Absolutely. That's good elbow rubbing. But maybe, just maybe, you shouldn't let your customer, the IA firm, train you. Maybe you should be trained before you show up for your test with Pilot, as an example. And so, to me, that's the second biggest mistake is, one, you just sit around and wait. But two, you're letting your customer train you. That is a mistake. That's right. In no other industry would we ever think I should go to a homeowner's house who needs a paint job and say, train me how to paint, and then you can pay me to do it. It's ridiculous. You don't do that.
I love that. And I constantly tell people that I believe adjusting is a trade. There's just so many similarities between adjusting and the trades. But I tell people all the time, your air conditioning breaks. That guy is not going to show up with just a license and be like, okay, so how do you do this? You know what I mean? That guy is going to show up fully trained, certified. He's probably shadowed somebody for a while, and then he's going to, investigate the damages and say, yeah, you need a new compressor, unfortunately, or something like that. And it's the similarity between adjusting and the trades is, to me, it's just great. But you have to treat it the same way. But it's
idea, a myth. It's just a myth that came up in the 90s, I believe, based on my research. Out of the 90s came this weird myth that, you get a license, they're going to call you. Because if a Hurricane Katrina happens, or Hurricane Sandy happens, and you have a license and a pulse, they're going to throw you there because they're out of bodies. And that's true. Right.
And then let natural selection, then let natural selection take its place, and some people will fall out and everything. And that idea of waiting for them to call you, that is my number one pet peeve, brother. Because I'll have somebody who's well qualified, gets a license, maybe gets software trained, starts looking at different types of trainings here and there, and then they apply to firms. And then they'll call me back and they'll be like, yeah, I haven't been able to get work. And so who did you apply to? Oh, this, that, and company. And what happened? Well, I got an email saying that as soon as they had an opportunity for me, they will reach out to me. And I was like, okay, great. And then what happened? well, I guess there was an opportunity because they never reach out to me. And it's like, you know that emoji with the face. It's
Yep,
like,
all the time.
brother, that's when you start calling them. You know what I mean?
Right.
Don't wait. Don't be waiting around for anybody to call you. Nobody. It sounds terrible, but you're not that special. You know what I mean? I mean, you may be well qualified, but they need to get to know you. You know, they need to know who you are, and you got to call
It
them.
works in every business the same way. It's all about who you know, who you like, who you trust. That's who they call.
That's right. And some of these adjusting firms, they have great HR departments. You can get on a first name basis with somebody who's going to be very generous and charitable with the information. They may even tell you, look, no, don't even worry about this type of training. Get this certification. You know what I mean? Oh, you want to do auto? Make sure that, you call IA Path, or make sure, you want to do, you want to fast track the deployment, go with Matt and over at Adjuster TV, those type of things. But, it requires, I always say this, you have to network. And network is not a bad word. It's not public speaking. Well, you and I are doing it right now. We're talking to each other, and then we'll follow up.
Well, it doesn't even have to be so formal. It could just be you're on Facebook groups. You're in the iPath community. You're talking with people on LinkedIn. You're showing up to that orientation. You're going to NACA. You're just being present in that action creates attraction. Things happen. The lucky person is the one who's in position. Right?
That's right.
Dennis Rodman got all the rebounds not because he was lucky. It's because he positioned himself well to be there when the ball bounced his way.
Did that man get rebounds? Holy moly, man. That was his thing. That's right. So tell me, let's talk a little bit about what you offer. I know that you offer mentoring, and you have these packages that are, literally going to help you put you to the front of the line. Tell me a little bit about the type of, training that IA Path offers.
Well, different than a lot of training, people hear about what we do and they're like, oh, it's a training company. And I'm always like cringing, because training almost has a bad connotation in the last 20 years in our industry.
Right. It does.
And so we had to think differently. We wanted, when I started the company, I was like, it doesn't matter if I charge $500, $5,000, $5 million if they don't get work. It does not matter. That's right. Because that's all everybody wants. That's all they were telling me they wanted. And no one wanted to learn how to write an auto claim. They wanted work. And if that got them work, then they'll gladly learn it. So it became this, how do we actually get them work? And that was the origin of the company, in essence, was how do we get them work? And so we talked with the firms and we said, how can we get them work? Because everyone's being told they don't have the experience, right? You don't have the experience to get daily claims. You got to have 2 to 5 years of experience to get work a lot of times in our industry. And so by talking with them, it's like, how can we get them a shot? Let them prove themselves. And it became
and I love that about
much
IA
more
Path,
than training.
I constantly see you guys talking about, and literally this is one of your quotes, how to bypass that 2 to 5 year experience requirement. And I love, that's one of the things that I love about your company. So, delve a little into that. Go ahead.
So the reason people have these experience requirements, it's not an unreasonable request. If you think about where it comes from, they're saying, hey, we're going to give you a chance, a 1099 contractor who should be a professional, right? A chance to handle claims on our behalf as a professional. And the only way we know how to judge that is, have you done this before? And so they just want to see, have you done it before? But then, like you're saying, you get caught in this catch-22 of like, well, how do you get experience without experience? And it's just this never-ending cycle. And so you're kind of expected to go off and become an insurance staff adjuster, go work at a collision repair facility or something like that. But what we did is we said, hey, what if we vouched for them? We trained them, we certify them, which is testing that they actually can do the job, not a multiple choice test, actually doing claim scenarios that you can do the job, and then introduce them back to you as an IA firm and say, hey, John or June, she's one of ours, they're one of ours, we guarantee that they will do good, and we believe it so much, we're going to be here mentoring them for an entire year to make sure that they're not asking you the silly questions, they're asking us the silly questions. And so we just came up with this new way to get that experience requirement waived. It still is accomplishing the same thing they wanted, which is we want to know they're not going to embarrass us. And we're like, okay, you can call me if they embarrass you and yell at me. I got this.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. All right, guys, we're going to take our first break for our first sponsor, which happens to be IAPath. If you already gotten your adjuster license, but you're stuck wondering how to actually get work, check out iapath.com. They created the experience-free career path for independent adjusters, just like we were talking about, so you can get trained, certified, and actually land work even without experience or having to wait for the next hurricane. Over 50 IA firms waive the experience requirements for IAPath grads. It's not just a course, it's a career launching system. So start your journey at iapath.com and make sure to use the discount code Pablo. So as you know, I just started this podcast and I'm really excited about the conversation we're having here. The industry is actively looking for quality, not quantity. And so I just want to let you know that I work with adjusters one-on-one, coaching them through my site, theadjustercoach.co. I've been in some aspect of the insurance industry over 25 years, and in that time, I've helped license over 12,000 individuals. But here's what I've learned. Just getting a license is only the first step. I help folks look after that to building a resume, getting connected with the right IA firms, and figuring out the best training for where you want to go. My goal is to help you to get working faster with more confidence and to be there to keep you on track. If that sounds like something you need, check out theadjustercoach.co. You'll find all the information there on coaching calls, resume help, and more. Again, that's theadjustercoach.co. All right, Chris. So I love this, how you are helping people overcome that experience requirement, and then you're holding yourself accountable based on how well you trained them. So I go through the IAPath training. I start working. Can you break down for me what the first 30 to 60 days looked like for me? Maybe you can mentally think about some of your success stories, but tell me what would that look like for a brand new auto damage adjuster?
There's really two different speeds at which we see people go. And there's the ones who are just catapulted 100 miles an hour, like 12 days in our program, graduated, and day 2 after being graduated, they're off on a deployment. And that's like,
awesome.
Insane, right? and they go make 6 figures their first year, and we're like, whoa, that's not what we tell people is going to happen, right? That's not our expectation, but we love it when we see that. The other one is more common, which is, okay, I'm graduated, probably took me about 30 to 60 days because it's all self-paced on demand, so they can choose the speed they do it at. And they're like, okay, I'm certified, I'm maybe even working another job, this isn't a full-time thing for me, and what do I do next? And we're like, you take the next 30 days, and you can go as fast or as slow as you want, but you need to contact all of the companies we introduce you to. Because now these are your customer leads. This is a business. And if you're a coffee shop, you got to get your first customers in the door before you get more, right?
That's right.
So it's all about that networking and getting onboarded, which is a fancy term for fill out a form and get them added to their system. So if they choose you, you can get a claim, right? It's giving them all that paperwork. And that takes time. And it can be done in a few days if you want, but for most people, they're going to get on with a few companies the first week, and then within 30 days, they'll have gotten on to a lot more, and they'll start receiving a trickle of claims coming in, and they're like, whoa, I'm actually getting work. And the first week, they're super excited, like, whoa, I got 2-3 claims. The next week, they're like, I want more, and they kind of come back, and they're like, hey, like, how? I want to get more work. I was hoping for more than this, and it's like, you do realize you just jumped 2 to 5 years of experience in 60 days. You're working, awesome. And there's people who've been waiting years to get a claim to actually execute. If you want more work, it's real complicated. You contact more people. You do a better job. You work hard. You close claims fast, and you network with the companies we're introducing you to, and you follow up every 2 weeks. And all of a sudden, they wake up and they go from like, Chris, I'm not getting enough work, to like, I'm buried, I can't breathe, I'm so overwhelmed. So like, it's a little bit different timing from that point on, but like that's kind of what we expect. Is like within 30 days you should get work. If not, you call me. I give them my phone number. They call me up, and then I start networking on their behalf if the normal process isn't working.
Wow, you really start doing that for them. Wow,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
great.
absolutely.
That's
because
fantastic.
we want to make sure they get work because that's our measurement, right? If someone's not getting work, then we feel like we've not done our job, and that's why we offer a guarantee that you will get work or we start paying you. Like that is our guarantee.
Wow.
And so I'm financially incentivized even to contact companies and be like, please give Pablo claims, right? Like I need him to have a shot at this, to try him out. And so we really wanted that. We were like, what would it take if it was us to enroll in a program like this? What would somebody really want to experience? And kind of reverse engineering that to like, well, they'd get work or they'd get money back. They'd have a lot of companies to contact, not just 5 or 6. Like so we just kept building and building and building till we could get to that point.
I mean, that's true mentorship right there. I mean, really being accountable for the person that you train, and you're basically placing to the point that they're so good, that I'm going to back them up. And your program, you back that up by telling the student, this is going to work, or we're going to pay you. Wow, that's awesome. So tell me a little bit, and I'm looking here at your website real quick. So tell me about, you have 2 buttons, choose mentorship and find out how to get work. Tell me a little bit about that. I just want to go through the technical side of navigating your website real quick.
Yeah, so if someone says choose mentorship, we have 2 different EXP free career paths. One is for independent adjusters, the people we're talking to today. One is the same job as far as you write estimates on damaged cars, but you're doing it as a collision estimator. So this is more for people who want to sit at home, have a, not at home, but like in their hometown, and go to a place that's fixing the cars and write estimates on cars there. So we do
body shops. So they would be doing a body shops. So is that an appraiser? Is that what that is, or
it's
an
estimator?
An estimator.
Yeah, it's a collision estimator. Yep.
Okay.
I always call it body shops, but the technical term is collision repair shops. So yeah, collision estimators, collision repair shops. And so once you kind of decide like which lifestyle is the one I'm after, am I looking for a consistent salaried experience? That's a collision estimator.
Okay.
If you're looking for being a business owner, writing estimates on damaged cars, you're going to be an independent adjuster or appraiser.
Okay. And then, before we head into our next break, I just wanted to ask you this question. Again, we mentioned thousands of car accidents a day. There's a lot of opportunity to be handling those claims. Tell me what the difference is, because, of course, since I've always focused on residential, we're not going to call it property, we'll call it residential, but I understand clearly what the difference is between CAT and dailies. Tell me the difference in auto. Like I'm handling, fender benders, or somebody put diesel in a gas car or whatever, and then a Hurricane Sandy comes through. What's, and I obviously volume, but tell me what's the difference in the auto side of this industry? What does that look like?
So it's almost, unless you happen to live where Hurricane Sandy hits, if you take that out of it, you're more looking for a limited time event that's happening. So if let's pretend you live in North Carolina or South Carolina like Pablo, you're doing daily claims. You're getting a trickle of claims in throughout the week, maybe as many as 20 a week, but you're just kind of working those claims as they come in and they're trickling in. Whereas a catastrophe is someone's calling you saying, hey, I need you in Dallas, Texas in the next 48 hours until... And they hang up the phone, and you're like, okay, I don't know what's about to happen. And then halfway there, they're like, actually go to Houston. You know what? Arizona. I changed my mind. Like that's that's catastrophe, right? Like you were getting deployed like a military guy into a combat zone until the war is won. That's the difference.
Oh, okay. I see. And, and I know we always talk about hurricanes. I mean, I came into the adjusting side. I've been in insurance for a long time, but as far as adjusting, I came into it during Hurricane Sandy, which was, 13 years ago. But what just baffles my mind is that Hurricane Katrina was 20 years ago. And Hurricane Katrina was just, it was the game changer in the industry, in my opinion. But, when it comes to these massive storms, of course, they they make all the news and all that. But then there's always the hailstorm. Do hailstorms generate a lot of auto claims? Again,
Absolutely. That's the big moneymaker.
Yeah, you're speaking to somebody who was born and raised in Miami. And up until we moved to the North Carolinas, I was like, what is a hailstorm?
Yes. So actually in auto, we see more volume from hail than we do hurricanes and
I bet.
with hailstorm than hurricanes. And the reason is pretty straightforward. A hurricane, you have days to respond. You know it's coming, at least a day in advance.
Yeah.
You move your car. You leave town a lot of times.
Yeah.
Hailstorms, it's a thunderstorm that pops up. You might have an hour or two heads up that there's a thunderstorm coming, but there's no guarantee it's going to drop hail. So you don't hide your car typically too much until it's too late. And so people are at work, they're on the freeways. You're not on the freeway when Hurricane Sandy or worse, Katrina or Andrew comes through driving on the highway. Not happening. You were hiding.
Be anyway.
Right. Well, there are a few, but unless you're Max Olson, you're not on the freeway chasing the tornadoes or that's why it's kind of more of a volume game for auto in hail. And even with hurricanes, the field auto people don't get deployed for a long time. It's usually 2 to 4 weeks, which honestly is not a ton of time to make your travel expenses back. So I am, once again, the odds are not in your favor. May the odds ever be in your favor, and why I'm big on daily claims, right? Because there's just less at risk and you have more control over it. But hurricanes are great. Sometimes you get a lot of work from total loss, that side that we're rolling out our certification for. Huge during hurricanes. People get deployed for 6-9 months sometimes in a cubicle, or then they get moved to home working remotely, handling those claims for months after the hurricane's gone, because there's just all these loose ends to wrap up.
That's right. That's wonderful. Well, thanks, Chris. Let's go into our next sponsor read. This episode is brought to you by Open Road Coffee. It's proudly based in the mountains of Columbus, North Carolina, built on premium, organically grown, farmer direct beans and commitment to extraordinary customer service. Open Road Coffee backs their products with 100% satisfaction guarantee. Stan Yoder is the founder over there. Meticulous is a nice way of saying obsessed with his approach to coffee. And I know, because I'm Cuban, I know about Cuban coffee. This man makes the most delicious coffee, and we're always making a joke that he talks to the beans. So after Hurricane Helene, my hat's off to Stan, because even though his house was affected by the hurricane and at Open Road they had a sinkhole, he was open within 4 days, giving out coffee to adjusters, to anybody in the community. So I have a lot of respect for Stan. And so I want to thank him for all that. Go to openroadcoffeeroastery.com and use the discount code CAFE, CAFE, for 10% off any of your orders. openroadcoffeeroastery.com. All right, Chris, so let's continue on. So one of the things that I pride myself in is telling the people the truth, whether good or bad, right. And there's a lot of good truth in this industry, but can you touch a little bit on about maybe the bad, or maybe mistakes people make, that those type of things, things that you can come across that are maybe obstacles or misconceptions even about the industry? Let's touch a little bit on that, because again, I love it that you and I both give people the truth. So give me some examples.
Yeah. So the big misconception is, to me, misinterpretation of terms. So when people hear I'm on a roster, let's say, they assume they're going to get work. Yeah. So I've had people get on with a major catastrophic firm and they're like, hey, you're on the roster. And they're like, Chris, I quit my job. I bought a truck and a ladder and whatever. And I'm like, what did you do? Like, no, you're just on a list. You were on a list to sell Girl Scout cookies. That's all this is. You haven't sold any cookies yet. To me, it's making sure that people really understand, like, if you are eligible for a date, great. You were on a roster that potentially the girl could pick you, but you're not married yet, right? Like, you got to understand that. And then moving forward, people are like, hey, I'm on standby. They think that means they got work. No, it means that they are letting you know they're planning on you if they call you that you're going to be available. And they're just letting you know that. And they're confirming that you are going to be there if they need you to call you. Doesn't mean you got work. Doesn't even mean you have that high a probability, honestly. Because usually the hurricanes haven't hit yet. The next one is, hey, I'm deployed. And they like go all in and they like travel expenses, everything. And I'm like, Hurricane Dorian hasn't even made landfall yet. You've been deployed for 3 days, staged. It never made landfall. How many thousands of adjusters spent thousands of dollars on Hurricane Dorian, Cat 5 hurricane, moving in from Bahamas, and it stops, right? So you got to use a little bit of logic. Yes, the IA firms are excited, but you got to think about why they're doing what they're doing. They're not nefarious, okay? I'm not anti-IA firm. I just want, I'm just trying to make sure people have clarity that, like, the IA firms have the insurance companies going, this Cat 5 storm looks like it's going to create a new channel through all of Florida. I mean, it's as big as all of Florida, right? We don't know what's going to be left. Get people ready. And so they do. But that doesn't mean you're going to profit from that if it doesn't happen. Right. So don't risk your final dollars to be ready for a cat storm. And that's the big culmination of all those mistakes, is betting it all on this industry. You don't bet it all on a new business. You treat it as a business. You treat it wisely. You invest. You spend time. But you don't bet your last paycheck on it if you don't know where your next dollar is coming from. Don't do that, right? Like, people call me, I got 30 days, can I make it happen? I'm like, no, don't you dare buy my program right now. Like, please do not do that.
That's right.
Like, that is not how this works. You're building a business. It takes time.
Yeah. And that's really, I mean, what I tell people all the time is educate yourself. You know, they say that people just scan nowadays. People don't read. But if I'm going to make, a transition into a different industry, I'm going to educate myself. And I can't tell you how many times people would call me when I was working at Adjuster Pro, and they would tell me, oh, I bought your total adjuster package, which has licensing and this and that and the other. And, but how do you get work? And it's like, wait, you bought our most expensive course, but you don't know how to get work. And I find that so strange. And I tell people all the time, look, Adjuster Pro has great blogs. I give a webinar. Chris has, he has a great presence on LinkedIn and on Facebook. Go look at some Matt Adjuster TV, videos. I mean, just research, and I don't know if you've come across this, but really I've been coaching the last 3 to 5 years. I've considered myself an adjuster coach. I used to be, a career consultant for Adjuster Pro. People would call and they would ask, I live in, Florida. How do I get? So I would kind of guide them, and then they would buy the courses and move on from there. And I give them a lot of resources in the webinar anyway, but it really is shifted to, and I don't know if you see this with your students, but I find it interesting that today there's quite a few well-qualified individuals that lack confidence. I don't understand it. I don't know where it's coming from. Maybe it's because ChatGPT does everything for you. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that too. But I mean, to me, where that lack of confidence comes in from is they're not actually qualified 9 times out of 10. They don't actually know how to do the job. So if you're probably more situationally aware, emotionally intelligent if you are nervous about your ability than someone who's like, I bought a license, I should get work, right? Like, that is false confidence, okay? This is not real confidence. But there's a difference between that bravado of course I could do the job, Pablo. Put me in. I'll make it happen, Captain.
That's right. Put me in, coach. Put me in.
Exactly. Yeah, and then you get struck out and the team loses. Thanks a lot. But versus someone who's like, I don't know how to do my job, but I need to know how before I go get work. So once they get their license, and maybe they even do training, right? There's nothing wrong with training, but that's only knowledge. The difference between training and application is like a chasm, right? You can have head knowledge about how to perform brain surgery, but to get to perform brain surgery is very different. You have to have a way to build up that skill and the muscle memory and all that. Same with adjusting. It's not as life and death, but it's the same thing. Like, you can have head knowledge about a roof or about a hood, but that doesn't mean when you get put into a claim that you know how to actually complete it start to finish. So those people crumble when they realize I can't step forward because I don't have confidence. So that's why certifications,
that's right,
to me, real certifications, not multiple choice quiz certification. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you actually went to MOCAT, climbed on a roof, and they said, you measured the roof right. Like, I'm talking iPads. You actually wrote an estimate.
You circle with the chalk correctly. You passed that one. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Like, where you demonstrate competency certification is very different than training. And once you have that, that is as much for you as it is for the IA firms. So for us, we always tell our students, our number one job is to give you confidence in you, then us confidence in you, and then the firm's confidence in you. Because if they're not confident in themselves, we're not going to be confident that they can do the job. If we're not confident, the firms aren't going to be confident, right? Like, it's just not, it's a domino effect. And so we've got to build them up in confidence, and then it steamrolls from there.
Wonderful. And so, and I was just kind of thinking, tell me a little bit about, so I get people from all walks of professional life come into this and do well. Insurance agents, realtors, obviously construction and trades and things like that. Is it wide open like that for auto adjusting, or do you get a lot of,
I would say it's more so.
Yeah?
Even
Really?
more so.
Interesting.
Yeah, so now, me and you know, this is for the audience's sake, but me and you know that we are married to amazing women who homeschool their kids.
Oh, I married up. I married up big time, bro.
Exactly. So, but if I say that we have homeschool moms who come in and never had any experience with cars, can suddenly learn how to write an estimate on a car, people are like, what? I've had school teachers come in, firemen, nurses. Like, it doesn't matter, because ultimately, any good mentorship, any good mentor, any good training even, is going to break it down to fundamentals and not give you knowledge, but give you process. Because there's no way you can know every part of even your own car. You don't. I promise. I don't know whether it's a bracket, a brace, or some other term they came up with last week. It's one of those things that holds things together, okay? It's one of those. I don't know. Let's look in the software to see what it's called, right? So people have this false perception because, we've been trained so much that you have to memorize things, the periodic table and the presidents of the United States and the dates, that's what adjusting is. And that is not what adjusting is. It is not. I know what that part is called, and I know exactly what it costs and how much the labor is on it. It's like, no, it's knowing the process and how to get answers. So everything we do is, I basically tell my team a lot that I'm the dummy. I try to break it down as simple as possible so anyone can understand it, because if I can understand it, I had never changed my own oil. I was a warehouse worker. I held the record for most boxes thrown at Walmart distribution. Okay, like, that's the level of intelligence we're talking here, people. And I learned how to do the job.
You're giving a lot of people hope, brother. A lot of people
exactly. So it's not about memorization. It's about process. And if you have a good process and you take good notes, if you're learning from somebody, then you can know how to get the right answer. Or if you're in a good program, they're going to give you the process and cheat sheets and guides and video reference material that will help guide you through it. Just like any industry does. There is something to remind you what your next step is, and then there's a cheat sheet for, this is how I do my next step, or a video to watch, or whatever.
That's right. That's wonderful. All right, man. So before we wrap up, I always like to, when I give my webinars, people see pictures of me and my family. Yes, my 9 kids under 18. Yes, I know all the jokes. We have a TV. We know how it happens, all that good stuff. But, who is Chris? I think people want to know, who is Chris? Tell me a little bit about you. I think people have noticed that you're kind of swaying back and forth. So
the sun's moving.
We know that you live in a boat, and I know that you converted a bus into a home. So tell me, how, married, kids, and what your lifestyle is like. Tell me a little bit about that.
So married, 3 kids, 15, 12, and 4.
Nice.
So I got a spread there. And they all have grown up and learned to walk on the sailboat. So
That's
the last one was
wonderful.
actually born basically on the boat. It was
Oh,
at the
that's
midwife's
awesome.
home on
That's
shore,
awesome.
but we went off the boat the night of the birth to the midwives and then back home the next morning. Like,
That's wonderful.
crazy. Superwoman she is.
That's right.
So we've lived on a sailboat 13-ish years basically. And then the school bus got introduced a few years ago. We did a van road trip out to Yellowstone and out to Seattle, and we fell in love with that side of the nation because we'd always been on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So we said, let's get a school bus, and we got a school bus, converted it, more space, a little more space than a van. We had 3 kids now.
Yeah.
And so a few years ago, we converted that, and we started taking a few months off, usually during hurricane season, to run away from the hurricanes from Florida, leave the boat somewhere and go out west, and explore, Yellowstone and stuff. And so that's kind of our lifestyle. We're always on the move. We fell in love with traveling, I think, in large part due to catastrophe work.
Yeah.
We traveled to hurricanes, to hailstorms, and we were like, why would we go back home?
Yeah.
It's funner out here.
Yeah, we live in a beautiful country, man. And you travel for these type of things, whether it's the actual storms, or last week I was in Alabama, Mississippi, Missouri, and Arkansas, just meeting with different IA firms and MOCAD and those type, and Julian in Arkansas, and we live in a beautiful country, and I think that's one of the pluses to being out in the field is that you get to see it. But I love this story of you living in a sailboat. I've told my wife that, and she's been like, school bus maybe, sailboat, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, probably not with 9. That'd
Not
be a
with
big boat, man.
That's right.
That's like
That
a
would be-
cruise ship, okay? We're not talking
would-
sailing here.
That's right.
It's like a charter
That's
boat.
right. That's right. All right, my friend. Thank you very, very much for being here with me today. Really appreciate you. Any little parting words of wisdom you want to give out there to people kind of on the fence thinking, can I do this?
A big part of whether you can do this or not is your mindset, who you surround yourself with, and kind of your expectation level. Because if your expectation level is I'm going to make $100,000 in the next 3 months, you're not going to make it. Okay, because you're not going to make that money in that short time. 2, you're going to have wrong expectations, and you're never going to feel like you're making progress. And so, when building a business, make sure you give it time. I've already said that before, but that expectation that you have coming in greatly dictates whether you'll be successful in this industry or not. And if you're like, I don't know if this industry is right, or I don't know if auto's right, we have phone numbers on our website. You can call 844-4IA-PATH, and you will get my sister, who is our head of community. She's amazing. She knows everything about
Danica,
this
right?
industry.
That's
yeah,
Danica?
Danica. You've
Yeah,
met her.
yeah,
Yep,
Danica, yeah.
Yep. And if you want, you can schedule a call with my mentor, my father-in-law, who now works for IA Path.
Wonderful.
And he actually talks with our potential students who want to know the truth. Is this a good idea for me? Because we talk more people out of doing our program than we do into it.
I
Because
love
we're
that.
like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Because of different reasons, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has a different situation and needs. If Pablo calls me, I live in Dallas, I have 9 kids, I need to make XYZ number of dollars, I'm going to go, I don't think you should switch right now, man. I think wait for some kids to leave.
That's right, that's right.
Let's not go to auto and
yeah,
reset this whole career right
That's
now,
right,
right?
that's
Your
right.
circumstances matter, whether
That's
this is a fit, and we want to answer that question for you.
I love that. And many a times, I've had somebody after the webinar email me and say, that was really cool. This is not for me. And I always tell them, good, I did my job. I did my job. Sometimes saying no, it's what we have to tell people. It's not. And, I think there's a little bit of fear for people to tell people no nowadays, but it's the best thing that you can do for them. And then hopefully, God will open another path for them. Thanks again for being here with me, brother. I really appreciate your time and your wisdom. And as always, let's keep shaping this industry. All right.
Absolutely. Everybody get out there, keep walking your path and claiming your life.
I love it. I love it. Well, Chris, thank you very much for being here and sharing so much wisdom and knowledge with us about the field of auto adjusting. Again, just the key lessons to recap. Definitely want mentoring, definitely want training and you definitely want to reach out to people and not wait for them to come to you. If you want to find Chris, simply go to iapath.com. And again, you can just click on the mentorship or a career coaching call, and they'll be happy to give you tons of time and see if this is the right fit for you. As for us, please subscribe to my podcast. Feel free to review it, share it. And then coming up on episode 4, Ryan Sorensen. This young man is someone who listens well, has been in the industry for about 2 years or so. But when I mean he listens well, he did everything that I told him to do and knocked it out of the park. And I think it's great to have people that have just been successful recently. And he's going to share his great story of how he found mentoring, how he found work, and how he dealt with his growing family during all of this. And before we go, of course, this episode is proudly supported by adjusterpro.com, your trusted resource for insurance adjuster licensing and training. Whether you're just starting out or need continuing education, Adjuster Pro offers everything you need to meet your licensing requirements with confidence. So as a special thank you to our listeners, you can go to adjusterpro.com/Pablo and use the discount code Pablo5. That will knock off 5% off and not charge you taxes. So if you have any questions or need any guidance or would like to get coached into this industry, feel free to reach out directly to me. Contact details are below. You can always email me to theadjustercoach@gmail.com. Again, thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you next time.